Good morning, everybody, and thanks to Tim and Jess for their excellent talks. The River Thaw, many people are familiar with Aberthaw, but perhaps not so familiar with the inland parts of the river. It's quite a small river, but it has powered a number of water mills along its length in the past. Where is it? Well, it drains the central part of the Vale of Glamorgan. You can perhaps see Barry to the east and Cowbridge in the centre there. The river flows for roughly 20 kilometres from just south of the M4 to the Bristol Channel at East Aberthaw. It rises near Todbrigam in the hilly country there. Springs emerge from the hillsides and gradually together form the infant river. It's in a very wide river valley, which is because it's a misfit stream. The post-glacial meltwater widened the valley. It's clothed with woodland on the valley sides, and here you've got the usual range of woodland flowers. Very nice carpets of bluebells and wood anemones and similar regular flowers. You also get a variety of insect life associated butterflies like the orange tip and the speckled wood and such like. A little bit further down the valley is Pentline Castle upon its hill with a steep clothed with woodland valley side there. And here the usual spring flowers again with ramsons as well, and scarlet elf cups in the mossy logs are a nice little splash of colour in the very early spring. Particularly interesting are the large clusters of parasitic toothwort, less usual, I suppose, and this is in the shade of the yews lower down the valley. When you get to the river itself, you'll probably find beautiful demoiselles as one of the fauna there, and if you're lucky, maybe a patrolling golden-ringed dragonfly, only really found on these upper stretches. On the other side of the river valley, near Aberthaw, is a beautiful, near Aberthin, near Aberthin are flowery meadows and also marshy fields which form part of an SSSI with heath-spotted orchids here, and there used to be a colony of marsh fritillaries, sadly now died out, even though the larval food plant of Devil's Bit scabious is still present. The market town of Cowbridge is one of the few significant places where houses are actually found right on the river bank. The town used to flood, but the Environment Agency scheme, flood prevention scheme put in a few years ago, has really been well worth its installation. Particularly in that very wet autumn of 2019, when there was a huge lake which pondered up behind where the thaw had flooded onto the arable fields as well as the pastures and destroyed the crops. There were swans swimming here and gulls swimming on it and half a dozen little egrets paddling round the edges. You couldn't get across to the footbridge, which you can perhaps just make out as a stile there on the footpath. It was inaccessible even with wellies. But it's only downstream of Cowbridge really that there's an opportunity to walk along the river bank. Here you might disturb a heron or maybe see some mallard, moorhens, grey wagtails, or if you're lucky, a kingfisher or a dipper or even an otter. And wintering snipe can be flushed from the rushy fields near the sewage works there. They're quite regular in winter. From there, there's a narrow lane which goes over to Llandoch, a small village, and the bank sides there have interesting plants such as nettle-leaved bellflower. Further downstream and overlooking the river is Old Bupa Castle. This is a splendid ruin dating back at least to 1300, now in the care of Cadw and well worth a visit. It's freely open, but that's only in normal times, probably closed because of COVID. In some places along the river, the vegetation grows quite lushly where livestock are being fenced away from the banks. Here from Gigman Bridge, you might well see banded demoiselles compared with the beautiful demoiselles which get further upstream. Downstream of Gigman is a much wider river valley. This is on the Flemingston and Llanbethery moors. And here this also regularly floods in winter, attracting large numbers of wildfowl, various ducks, and especially large numbers of Canada geese. There are also swans, and occasional hooper will drop in, and maybe other rarities. Large flocks of lapwing are also present in winter, very nice to see. But although they probably bred all along the valley in olden times, earlier times, you'll be lucky to find a nesting attempt these days. When we get down to old East Orchard Castle, with its little packhorse bridge over the mill leat, this is where we found wasp spiders. This was on a Subrek Square of the Month exploration, so we're rather thrilled to find these. Their food source is mainly grasshoppers and bush crickets like this long-winged conehead. And we've also found wasp spiders a little further downstream near the Aberthaw cement works in the salt marsh area there. By this stage, when we're getting closer to the coast, it does look more or less like a river. It's never very wide, the Thaw, but it is deep in places. Unfortunately, from here south, you can't really follow the river. Its course was straightened and channeled with concrete banks when the power station came. You can, I hope, see out in the distance the caisson, which is the cooling water intake for the power station. So this is the rather sad end to the present Thaw, but about a kilometre to the east is the original estuary of the Thaw, still with its salt marsh creeks. You can probably see the power station chimney, which is partly hidden by the mass of the ash tip there, and also the old lime works and part of the seawall. This is a view from the cliffs towards the Fontigary Caravan Park. The cliffs below are Lias limestone, and here there's a population of the very rare true service tree. Also relatively uncommon is purple gromwell, which grows on the cliffs with the contrasting yellow of common rock rose. Bordering the salt marsh and an ever-expanding patch of sea heath forms quite a mat there. Also quite a good population of yellow-horned poppy growing on the upper shore. We hop over the seawall, you find the brackish lagoon there with several vegetated islands which are nesting sites regularly for mute swan, coot, moorhen, mallard, and in some years we've seen broods of tufted ducks there as well, rather nice to see. There's a variety of waterfowl in the winter, and usually water rails squeaking in the winter. The small birds, the usual reed and sedge warblers and maybe reed buntings in the reed beds, and in the scrub around you hope to see stonechats. The vegetation is very rich with an assortment of orchids. These probably southern marsh common spotted hybrids, but also we've got pyramidal and marsh helleborines. There's also autumn ladies' tresses there as well. So this rich flora attracts a whole variety of insect life, and I've just put in this slender-bodied digger wasp as a sort of representative of all the insect life. And if after this whistle-stop tour of the valley, you feel like refreshments, then the Blue Anchor Inn, historic inn in East Aberthaw, is your port of call. If you want to know more about the Thaw Valley, a book was produced with still a few copies left, and this was produced by ourselves together with 4 friends who are local historians and geographers. Tells you more about the history and the people as well as the wildlife. Thank you very much.
Fabulous. Yes.
Rob wants to put up a, sorry. If you want to know how to get hold of a copy, then
Yes.
there was information in the last Recorders newsletter.
There was indeed. We have a little article in there. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you ever so much, Linda. We gave you a few extra minutes after your little technical hitch, so
Sorry about that.
no worries at all. So in terms of the participants, we got one quick question, and then we'll go into our break, which will still be approximately 15 minutes. Quick question from Alison Jones. She says some of the riverbanks below Cowbridge, I presume from your photos, look suitable for water vole. Have there ever been any records of water vole in the area?
There have been records in the past, but not known from recent times. I think Rob Parry particularly found some near Old Bupa Castle in that section, but we haven't found any evidence lately that there are otters, so maybe that would depress any water voles if they had tried to come. Yeah.
Great. I've had some lovely comments coming into the chat, which you'll be able to catch up with in a minute. I think it was Sorrel saying it's lovely to go somewhere virtually when we're stuck at our desks, and especially during lockdown, it was a lovely to see the glimpse of the sun and the species that we all love to see when we're able to go out and about. So thanks for that.